Good afternoon. Welcome to the New Jersey Climate Change Resource Center's Spring Climate Academy's webinar on reducing the climate footprint of New Jersey residences, focusing on how residents can save energy and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I'm Marjorie Kaplan, and I'm both Associate Director of the Rutgers Climate Institute, and along with my colleague Jean Herb of the Edward Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy, I co-direct the New Jersey Climate Change Resource Center. A few logistics. Today's webinar will last until 1 o'clock. Other than today's presenters and our Rutgers team, you're all muted, so to communicate with us, please type your questions into the chat box. And to find the chat box, look at the bottom of the screen and you'll see a little bubble that says chat. And if you click on that, you can send us questions and comments. Please send your notes to all panelists, as that ensures all of us working behind the scenes today will see your questions. I want to thank my colleagues, Matt Drews and Dr. Kerri Ferraro here at Rutgers for their help with today's webinar, along with Jean Herb. And we welcome your thoughts and questions. I also want to let you know we're recording today's webinar, and it will be available on the New Jersey Climate Change Resource Center website, which we have put into the chat, or we're about to put into the chat. And so, yes, I think we've already answered one of the questions we got. So we're very pleased to present today's webinar by Kerri Lombardi and Michele Calabrese. This is the second in a three-part series on climate change and energy for New Jersey. You can find the first webinar in this series on the website, as also noted in the chat box. So a little bit about our speakers. Kerri Lombardi is the outreach coordinator for New Jersey's Clean Energy Program. She works to plan events across New Jersey to raise awareness about energy efficiency and sustainability for New Jersey residents. And Kerri is going to be followed by Michele Calabrese. Michele is a residential account manager in New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, and he's worked in various energy efficiency sectors over the past years. And he holds a LEEDs B, D, and C certification and has particular interest in the new energy efficiency standards being implemented through the Northeast. So it's now my pleasure to invite Kerri to turn on her camera and her microphone and start sharing her screen along with Michele. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. And, thank you, Kerri, and to the Rutgers Climate Institute for having us here today. As Michele gets the slides up, I'm just going to begin. So, we're so excited to have this chance to talk to you about New Jersey's Clean Energy Program and how the work that we're doing can contribute to climate change and help with the climate crisis. We understand how critical it is now more than ever in this time of pandemic and the associated health crisis, as well as in this era of, economic and social injustices. So it's very timely for us to be here talking to you about our program. And we're also going to share some interesting information with you about green jobs, which is also especially important right now with so many people, out of work or actively on the job market. So as Marjorie mentioned, this was a three-part series. Next week, our C&I team will be here. So next slide, please. Actually, Marjorie, thank you for the introduction. So we can just go right to the next slide. This is a look at what we're going to cover today. Home energy usage. We'll show you the background on the Clean Energy Program and some program highlights. A little bit about the Energy Master Plan, the Green Jobs Overview, residential energy efficiency programs, and then some additional ways to save. So next slide. We wanted to start today's presentation by taking a look at some data that's, changed, things that have changed over the last year in each of our homes, which has sparked kind of a new interest in home energy efficiency and the higher demand for solutions to meet the needs. And the programs like those that Michele is going to be talking to you about today under the New Jersey Clean Energy Program umbrella will bring those solutions to you. So that, again, it's one of the main reasons we're here today talking about this. Next slide. So as I mentioned, one of the biggest changes we've all been dealing with was the pandemic, and that's had an impact on our home energy usage. COVID has made it necessary for most of us to work from home. In fact, 42% of the US labor force now works from home. Now, that doesn't mean that 58% are working on office premises. Actually, only 26% are working on office premises, while 33% are still, unfortunately, not working. we're gonna, like I said, we'll give you some details about the green jobs market. But the fact that people are not working combined with the home office workers has had a specific impact on our energy. That's twice as many people that are spending all day, every day at home. So that's led to a 4 to 7% increase in our residential power usage in just New York and New Jersey. And that's going to things like home electronics, increased use of lighting and heating and air conditioning, as well as like our kitchen appliances, because we're not eating in our cafeterias and our break rooms and using our work microwave and coffee makers and things like that. So all of these little things, those are, some of the smaller energy impacts, but next slide, please. I'm going to show us more data. Yeah, those, the dollars. This means that Americans spent $6 billion more on at-home power consumption from just April to July of 2020. That's a really short amount of time to have spent $6 billion additional dollars. So those dollars went to things like virtual meetings and events, streaming and home entertainment. Again, like I said, increased HVAC and all-day lighting, as well as home office energy usage and computers. Although interestingly, only 9% of our total energy dollars at home are going to our computers and our office electronics. We might think it's more, but statistically, it's only about 9%. Michele is going to talk to you shortly about where the bigger energy usage and bigger dollars that are going. So next slide, please. I just wanted to share this with you. It's a little fun, but it also gives us some perspective on things we don't think about. We all love, and we've all come to be really appreciative of our Netflix and our home streaming. But I wanted to show you what 1 hour of Netflix consumes. Just 1 hour consumes about 6.1 kilowatt hours of electricity. That's enough to drive a Tesla Model S for almost 19 miles, or to power an LED light bulb constantly for a month, or to boil a kettle once a day for nearly 3 months. That's insane, right? And we love our video games, our gaming consoles, but the average gaming console energy usage equals about 10 to 11 billion kilowatt hours per year, $1 billion in annual electricity bills. And that's equivalent to the output of 4 large power plants. And it's as much electricity as all of the households in Houston combined. And Houston's the 4th largest city in the country. So that's a lot of energy going towards our games and our Netflix. And interesting, all these little things have an impact on the climate crisis. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a little bit of background on the Clean Energy Program. It's administered by the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. It's funded by something called the Societal Benefits Charge. That's a little charge that's on all of our utility bills. Everyone in New Jersey that pays for utilities is paying this. And those little funds that each of us are paying go into a big pool, and those monies fund the Clean Energy Program and the rebates incentives. The program goals are to provide education, to change behavior, to provide opportunity for all New Jersey residents to reduce their energy and to lower their operating costs, to protect our environment and lower our emissions, and of course, to meet our governor's goal of being 100% clean energy by 2050. That is a very ambitious goal, but with these programs, we are well on our way and we are getting stronger all the time. So next slide. Okay, more about the program goals. We have a lot of programs in place to meet the 100% clean energy goal, including, as I mentioned, education and energy conservation. But we also have distributed energy resources and, of course, renewable energy. Now, we're not going to be talking too much today about renewables, but I often find that when we're talking about home energy efficiency, people think solar. But so I just want to make, well, we're not going to be talking about solar today. I just wanted to kind of make one sweeping statement that we hope is going to become obvious to you as we move through the presentation today. While solar is great by itself, it's even better when solar is just one piece of your total energy efficient home paired with home performance, which Michele will talk about. And together, that's just a better way to reach our clean energy goals and have an impact on climate change. Next slide, please. So we wanted to show you a bit about our program performance. You know, we're really lucky in doing what we do because we get to work and spend our days trying to make the world a better place. And so when you take advantage of one of these programs, you are doing your part. So New Jersey's Clean Energy Program in fiscal year 20, we processed over 141,000 applications, and our programs came to energy savings delivered through electric, gas, oil, and other efficiencies in generation. And in just fiscal year 20, we paid over $145 million in incentives, rebates out to people like homeowners and that have used the programs. Next slide. And all of this brings, you know, what real world results. So what does this mean to you? What is the impact that this work we're doing have on the environment and the climate crisis? Well, here's a look at some of those results. The clean energy programs eliminated enough CO2 in 1 year to equate to taking over 159,000 cars off the road, over 12 million trees planted, and 763,909 metric tons of greenhouse gases eliminated. So, you know, when you take part in any of these programs, you're contributing to taking cars off the road, planting more trees, reducing greenhouse gases, which, you know, that's all of us doing what we can to help with the climate crisis and really save our environment. That's just something that we can all feel really good about. So at this point, I'm really happy to turn things over to my colleague, Michele Calabrese, who's going to walk you through the programs in detail. Michele?
Thank you so much, Kerri Ann, and thank you so much to Rutgers Climate Institute for having us today. And as ever, just gonna, we'll switch here. There we go. So hi, everyone. I'm Michele Calabrese, and we already went into my background a little bit, but I've really worked in every bit of the energy efficiency sector. So right now I'm on the residential side, and I think the residential space is very interesting because it's something we can all relate to, right? We all live in a home, whether it's an apartment or a house, you know, we each have our chance to impact everything. And the way I really want to design today's presentation is we're going to talk about what we're doing at the New Jersey level. So Kerri Ann went into that a little bit already. And then we're also going to talk about what we're doing at the national level. So what type of national policies we are seeing on energy efficiency and climate science. But then we're finally just going to focus on you as a homeowner, what you can do, or as a renter. You know, these are things that we can all do, right? Because the big picture is great, but we want to know what we can do on our everyday lives. So the New Jersey Energy Master Plan. And what this plan is, Kerri Ann touched on a little bit, it's 100% clean energy by 2050 and 100% carbon neutral electricity generation by 2050. And really focusing mainly on transportation and building sectors, because a lot of energy is used there. If you've read any of the interesting stats this year, just regarding transportation without commuting due to the pandemic, there's been huge impacts in that. So we can see what that's done. Imagine if we have fleets of electrified vehicles and things along that line. I know, you know, hydrogen powered vehicles. These are all things that are in the cards for us in the future. You know, buildings, obviously, whether we're at work or we're in the office or we're at home, we're at the gym, you know, all of these are using energy. So this is all part of reducing state greenhouse gas emissions by 80% below 2006 levels, because we all know we have a lot of work to do with the climate. We want to make sure that this earth is here for many generations to come and comfortable for all of us. So the Clean Energy Plan, and this is on a national level, you know, these are just some of the things that have been talked about. You know, obviously we've already talked about the Paris Accords and going into that on the United States side, going back into that. And, you know, President Joe Biden has called climate change an existential threat and has ambitious plans to make the US carbon neutral by 2050. So same as New Jersey, you know, we're trying to really do ambitious things. And I'm not going to read all of these facts, but we have $2 trillion to an accelerated clean energy investment development goal. And these are all proposed things. Things can change. They can become more or less ambitious. We're targeting dates for zero carbon production, zero emissions, net emissions for new buildings. And then that 100% clean energy economy commitment, 100% clean transportation commitment. We can kind of see a theme recurring here, right? These are important things. And then finally, rural clean energy and jobs development plan. That's something highlighted on the New Jersey level. We're also highlighting creating more clean energy jobs. So clean energy jobs, that's a pretty broad definition, but I wanted to touch on what exactly do we mean and how we're doing in the clean energy space throughout the country. So these are from 2019, these numbers. And if you look at some of these really interesting facts, we have solar alone employed more than twice the number of coal workers. So that's really impressive fact. And wind and solar accounted for nearly 2 out of every 5 construction jobs in electric generation. So these are things that are really, probably we would never even thought of 30, 40 years ago. And the one that really shocks me is more Americans worked in energy efficiency than there are waiters and waitresses in Americans' bars and restaurants. So we're already seeing a pivot to the clean energy economy and clean energy jobs. And 2/3 of US clean energy jobs are involved in construction and manufacturing. So this is just, there's jobs for every sector, depending on what you do. And as a result of the industry's consistent growth, clean energy accounted for more than 40% of America's entire energy workforce and over 2.25% of the nation's overall employment at the end of 2019. And this next slide here, I'm not going to read all of it, but this is kind of where we're going. We have energy efficiency, we have grid and storage, renewable energy, clean vehicles. These are all just exciting fields that people can work in the energy efficiency space. So we're really fortunate that this space is just growing and growing, and this is obviously affecting our climate. More jobs in the clean energy space mean more clean energy technologies, means more impact on climate change. So I'm really excited about where our country, where our state, and where we are going locally today. So with the New Jersey Clean Energy Program, we have a residential portfolio of programs. And this, the way it works is I want to give you like a 1-sentence primer on each of these before we really get into them in more details. But we have our Home Performance with Energy Star program, which you can kind of think of as the whole home approach to energy efficiency. We have our Warm Advantage and Cool Advantage program, which is, let's say you're replacing a piece of equipment with X efficiency, you can get X rebate. We have energy efficient products rebates. This is the one we're probably the most familiar with. This is those Energy Star appliances that we see at Home Depot, Best Buy, places like that. Residential new construction. So if you're building from the ground up, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but if you have questions about it, feel free to ask them. I know most of us are not building our new home, so I don't go into too much detail during this presentation, but always happy to answer questions. And then finally, our Comfort Partners program. And this is our income qualified program. So this is the one that is free upgrades for income eligible families. And right now, this is for our fiscal year 2021. Currently the state, New Jersey, manages this large portfolio of programs. And these are high level categories. And currently we are transitioning towards a utility run system. We're going to talk about a little bit later on what that means, but this is going to be coming between April and July. And then some of these programs will be run by local utilities. So before I get into the meat of our presentation, I want to do a little trivia. And with this, just type in your answer, A, B, C, or D. What % of our energy bill goes to cooling and heating our homes? So just want some guesses here, kind of hear what our audience thinks. And my colleague Kerri Ann's going to read them out as they come in, what our most popular answers are. Kerri Ann, what are we seeing as people start to type these in?
Let's see, Michele. Oh, it's a pretty broad mix. We got a lot of B's. Let's see.
Okay.
I would say mostly B's and C's, it looks like. But it's it's split.
Great. Okay, well, that's good because the answer is actually B. It's around 42% of our average annual bill, and that average annual electricity bill. And that's only including, heating and cooling. You add water heating in and you're over 50%. So these are our biggest systems in our home and where a lot of the energy is coming from. So like I said, I wanted to talk about what you can do as a homeowner to impact your energy efficiency and thereby impacting the energy you use and having an effect on our climate. So the big thing I always love to talk about is insulation and air sealing. This is something that isn't as popular as I think it really needs to be. If you're not familiar, with insulation and air sealing, it can be a primary reason with drafts. My parents, and I'm going to talk about them a lot, they live in 1880s Victorian. We were actually just talking about this before we started, but these older homes, and there's a lot of them in New Jersey, have these issues with drafts, right? That one room that's always too hot or always too cold. And when I say insulation, some of you might think of the Pink Panther. I think of those big rolls up in my parents' house that are just up there because if you've even been in your attic to look, sometimes you might not even have insulation. It might be very well done because the way I think of it is insulation and air sealing. Basically, you're plugging up all of these holes in your house if you're insulated and air sealed properly. So that air is not escaping, because you can buy the greatest heating system, the greatest cooling system in the world. But if there's all these holes and the energy is escaping, you're just heating and cooling outside efficiently. So this is what we really want to talk about for our Home Performance with Energy Star program. And Home Performance with Energy Star, we kind of like to say it's part of that step from getting here to there. So, creating a clean and sustainable future. These home performance improvements from doing our program upgrades and adding renewables are going to lower our energy usage and pollution with New Jersey homes. So this is just one step that we can all take, if we're in our homes to make our home more energy efficient. So a little bit about home performance as a whole. A home performance contractor would look at this house and say, there's a problem here. If we look, one side completely covered in snow, the other not covered in snow. The roof is being heated, but probably not in a way you want, right? This is not a conscious roof heating system. There's a reason that the snow is melting and it's not good. So what did the builder do wrong in this scenario? Why are we seeing this? The attic isn't air sealed or insulated well. And you can kind of see a look right there, there's just no air sealing and insulation done there. But this is plenty of storage, but very little insulation, which is great if you want to install your Christmas decorations. I know my parents have a whole room of them upstairs, but it's not great for the energy bill. And more importantly, this house was never air sealed. So this means that hot air is rising and escaping into the attic. And this happens 24 hours a day, all winter long. So, if you've had your home air sealed, that's great. But if you haven't, you're losing all of this energy. What could the HVAC contractor have done wrong here? Well, the AC isn't sealed off during the winter. So another place for energy to escape. He put the AC ducts in the attic, the air conditioning contractor, which you can certainly do it. It just has to be done right. And, this causes problems all year round. So we're having, in the winter, the heat of the house escapes into the ducts and is lost in the attic. In the summer, the ducts are warmed by the attic. So your nice, cool air conditioning is warmed by the time it gets to the bedrooms. And it is certainly possible to put ducts in the attic, but you want to make sure you're doing it in the right way. So I like to show this diagram with attic air leakage, common places we see it. The one I always like to highlight first is that attic hatch. Not everyone has an attic hatch, but if you do, if there's a lot of space there, a big gap, that's just place for air to escape or air to flow to. So you're going to be losing a lot of air there. My parents' attic in the summer, I would say it's 100 degrees all the time. So there's just constantly tons of hot air up there. Another thing, wiring holes and lights, a lot of energy is escaping through there. Those recessed lights, those recessed lighting, if that's not air sealed inside properly, more energy is just escaping because there's airflow through there. Plumbing pipes, pretty self-explanatory, but if you have holes in those, you're going to have escaping not just air, but water. Drop ceilings and furnace flues as well. These are all things we want to make sure, especially furnace flues, that's sealed properly because we don't want that getting in the home. Those are toxic chemicals in some cases. So when warm air rises, it leaves the house and takes your hard-earned money with it. So we want to keep the air in the home. We don't want it escaping. We don't want to be paying for that. So a little bit about a home performance by the numbers. This program started in 2001. It's a national program, and more than 500,000 homes have benefited through this program. New Jersey, we're very lucky to probably have the best rebates, the best financing, and because of that, we do a lot of work. So the New Jersey Home Performance Contractor the contractors complete about 3,000 jobs a year, with an average contract amount of $16,000, and more than 40,000 jobs have been completed since the program began. So New Jersey's done a lot of work in this space. But I've talked about what a home performance is in the home, but what is this actual program? So home performance provides whole house energy assessments and comprehensive energy efficient upgrades for existing homes. And obviously we're addressing energy usage issues, right? We want to be as efficient as possible. We're also focusing on comfort, indoor air quality, and health and safety. Health and safety has never been more important than it is now, and comfort. We've been in our homes, a lot of us, for a year now. So, my parents, that one room that's always too hot or always too cold, they notice, that's really getting to them. You want to be comfortable in your home. And this program uses specifically trained BPI Gold Star contractors. So what that means is there's about 90 contractors in the program, and they are vetted. They have all their certifications, they have all their insurance, and we're making sure that all of their work is inspected. So benefits for homeowners, I've highlighted it once, but I'll highlight again: eliminating drafts and creating a more comfortable home. We want all our rooms in the home to be comfortable year round. It's going to reduce asthma and sinus issues, as well as remove dust and allergens. So with home performance, it's a tighter home. That means less of those pollen issues coming in and creating flare-ups. And then the obvious benefits, right? We're addressing climate change by being more energy efficient. Less energy you use, the less energy needs to be produced. So steps to participation. So what you want to do is select a participating contractor, and you can go on our website right there, and you can actually type in your zip code and see all the contractors that work in your area, 10, 20, 30 miles. And then you're going to want to schedule a home assessment. So some contractors may charge for this assessment, some may not. I recommend reaching out to a few different contractors, getting an idea of how they work and how they price, because we don't regulate pricing in this program. So some contractors can charge something, others can charge something else. Doesn't mean one's better than the other, just how their pricing works. And then this assessment is going to identify health and safety issues and energy improvements. And we're going to touch on what that assessment is in the next couple slides. And then finally, you as the homeowner are going to review contractor recommendations and incentive levels, and then they'll do the work. So you kind of decide what you want. They'll offer you a few options. Maybe one, they're replacing heating, air conditioning, water heater. Maybe the other is just heating and air conditioning. So it's kind of up to you to decide what you want to do. So during that home assessment, they're going to be a combustion appliance testing, which is they're testing the conditions of your heating system, hot water heater, and oven. And they're seeing what type of upgrades can be done there. They're also doing visual inspection of the home. So that'll be inside and outside, seeing where they can do air sealing, where they can do insulation. Because I said it before, and I'll say it again, you can have the greatest heating and cooling system in the world. But if your home isn't air sealed and insulated properly, you're just heating and cooling outside efficiently. All that air is escaping. So that's really important, that air sealing and insulation. And then finally, they're going to do a blower door test in a lot of cases. So if you're not familiar with the blower door, that's what it looks like. Essentially, it's just a big inflatable door with a fan. And that fan is going to be blowing air into the home to kind of simulate what's going on in the house. And the contractors will use an infrared camera to see where energy is escaping from. So this is a really great tool, because I could tell you that energy is escaping from your window and maybe you feel a little draft, but when you actually see on the infrared camera where the energy is going, it's a huge difference. I've been trying to convince my parents, they live in New York, to get a home performance audit for a while, because there's a lot of work that probably needs to be done in their home. And this is really the first great step for them to know what they can be doing. So on to dollars and cents, right? We want to talk about the home performance program, but money is a factor. So every single job requires insulation and air sealing, and then the rebate is paid based on the energy saved. So our tier 2 jobs are insulation, air sealing, and domestic hot water, and the energy savings are between 5 and 20%, and the rebate is up to $2,000. Our tier 3-1 is insulation, air sealing, plus any other eligible measures. So that's things, heating system, cooling system, water heater, things like that. Energy savings between 20 and 25%, and a rebate up to $3,000. And then our tier 3-2 is the same measures, but just energy savings greater than 25%, and a rebate up to $4,000. And if you see that additional rebate there, that UEZ bonus, I'm going to talk about what that is later on in our bonus rebates, but that's just an additional rebate that is available. And then I have to talk about the loans as well. We're really fortunate in New Jersey. We have probably the best loans in the country. You have a $10,000 loan at 0% financing for 7 years. And I say this to people and they go, okay, what's the catch? Does the interest change if X, Y, Z? It's a 0% interest loan. It really is. It's $10,000, 0%. And if you need more money, there's a $15,000 loan at 0.99% financing. And I always say, check with your local utility for additional loan opportunities and on-bill repayment options, because depending on where you are, there might be even more money available. So I said a lot of numbers there, but let's talk about a real world example. There's someone who's gone through this. This is a real case study. This is Diane from Hillsborough. And the size and age of the home, 30 years old, 2,600 square feet. That's a pretty common home in New Jersey. And her main concerns, they're standard. She had drafts, her equipment was getting old, and she wanted to save some money. So she installed the works. Obviously, air sealing and insulation. And then she lowered her water heater, furnace, and central air conditioning went in. And she spent $16,000 on the project, but she got a $4,000 rebate. So that means she owed $12,000. Then she got a $10,000 loan at 0%, and she was paying $2,000 out of pocket on this job, with 25% projected energy savings from the improvements. So that's great. But with that new 0.99% loan, she could have done it for $0 out of pocket. $0 out of pocket on a $16,000 project. That's just really impressive. And, that's why home performance is it's a slam dunk. It's one of our best programs. So I've talked a lot, but we want to do a trivia question. I was talked about a little bit earlier, but I want to see if everyone's paying attention. where do you think your house is leaking the most air? So doors, windows, attic floor, chimney, and type in your guesses and Kerri Ann will read them as we go along. Kerri Ann, what are we seeing as people start to type?
Let's see. Huh. Again.
It's funny, I don't have the chat on, but I can just
Yeah,
see more.
yeah.
I see more and I just see flashing. The number keeps going up. So I know people are typing, which is
Yeah,
good.
lots of C's.
Okay. Lots of
Mostly
C's.
C's and B's.
That's great.
C's and B's, yeah.
So thank you, Kerri Ann. And the answer is C. So that's great to hear. Everyone's saying windows, they are important, but if you look at the energy efficiency payback on them, it's not as high as you get by air sealing and insulation. So thanks. Yeah, I mean, the attic floor is a very important place to make sure that you have that energy efficiency. So what's another action you can do to be more energy efficient and have an impact on the environment? Service your HVAC equipment and water heater. Some of these units, they may need to be replaced and maybe it's time for something new. I like to talk about our Warm Advantage, Cool Advantage program because while home performance is a great program, it's that whole home approach. Maybe last year you replaced your heater or you did your air conditioning and go, oh, I don't know if I need all this equipment replaced. I just need a new water heater. I just need a new boiler. This is a great program for you. So our Warm Cool Advantage program is standalone rebates for just doing energy efficient upgrades. So on cooling side, we have central air conditioning units up to $500. And what I've really seen a lot of recently is cold climate air source heat pumps up to $2,000. And with this program, just check with your local utility bill for additional rebates and possible financing opportunities because they are available. But I want to talk about our cold climate air source heat pump. So if you haven't seen one of these before, it's that outdoor unit right there. There's also an indoor unit. But basically, this outdoor unit can both heat and cool your home. And these are electric units. And this is just that you get about $1,000 for an outdoor single zone system. If you're doing a multi-zone system, which would usually do 2 rooms or more, that's $2,000. And these are per outdoor unit. So I worked with a contractor this summer who installed 3 of these in someone's home. They got $6,000 rebates because they did the $2,000 tier piece of equipment here. These are kind of the latest and greatest in energy efficiency. We're seeing these in a lot of New Jersey homes because they're exciting technology, especially people really into the climate, into helping the environment. If you're a solar home, these are electric products that go right on there, and they can also heat that home too. So if you're using natural gas and you wanted to go electric, it's certainly an option. So our Warm Advantage and Cool Advantage program, this is our heating side, and we have rebates for furnaces, boilers, but I really want to talk today about the electric heat pump water heater. This is a new technology and the rebate is $750. They're way more efficient than what we've seen typically with our gas water heaters. And the way they work is kind of like a refrigerator in reverse. So they're pulling air in to actually help heat that water. And they're just a really efficient technology and something exciting that we're seeing more and more in the New Jersey space. So a little bit about our bonus incentives. I mentioned them earlier. Urban Enterprise Zone bonus, which is between $200 and $1,000, depending on the program, is for certain areas of the state that have been designated urban enterprise zones. I believe there's 37, and it's in different cities. So just to name a few, Patterson, Trenton, Newark. But it's one of those things where one block could be an urban enterprise zone or one could not be. So if you have questions if you qualify or not, there's actually a tracker where you can put in your address and you can actually see if you qualify. There's our low to moderate income bonus between $200 and $1,000. And a family of 4 making $104,000 or less will qualify for this. So that's a lot of people in New Jersey. And then there's our affordable housing bonus. And just with this, only this is a one incentive or the other, so you can't get both. But I did want to mention these because these rebates are out there. So, what can you do? Actions 4 and 5, keep the thermostat under control. And this has never been easier, right? Most people have probably heard of Nest, there's Ecobee. There's these smart thermostats that have solutions for almost every home. There's all different setups for these, but you can control these from your phone. If you're at work, you're going to work and it's the summer, you like the air conditioner at 72 when you're home, but nobody's home. Why not just change the thermostat to 80? Save yourself some energy. There's no reason to be using it. You don't need the home cold, and you can always set it that an hour before you get home, the thermostat goes down to 72 again. And we can do the reverse in the winter, right? So these are just quick ways we can save money. And, lower the temperature, wear a sweater during the winter. My apartment is always very cold and I'm usually wearing a sweater, but it's not a big deal. It's just another way we can save energy and it's a really simple action, right? This is not exactly revolutionary stuff. What else can you do? You can wash your clothes at 30 degrees, so wash it on that cool setting. And this is actually better for athletic wear and longevity. So I like to wear a lot of soccer jerseys or track pants. And if I made those hot anyway, they'd be gone. The heat would just really warp those. So they work better at a cooler temperature. And while we all wish we could, be in, I think this is Venice, this picture, and just dry outside, that's not an option for all of us. So, we can use lower settings on dryers as well. There's a lot we can do in just simple actions every day that you can take that you don't have to do massive upgrades for. Another one I always like to talk about is, you can lower your water heater temperature as well. There's a lot we can do. This one I always talk about, though I think most people know about LED bulbs these days. One of the criticisms I always heard, because we do a lot of homeowner events, was they're a harsh light, right? It's like this hospital lighting and people don't like it, but that's totally different these days. I have a smart bulb that can be controlled by Alexa or Google Home that I can change the colors on to any color. I can do green, I can do purple, I can do red. I actually turn it to red light towards the end of the night because I think it helps me better with blue light, making me sleep better. But there's so many capabilities here, and you can set these with schedules. My parents in their 1880s Victorian, they have smart lights now. They have one outside on the front porch. It turns on at 5, turns off at 5. So it gives you the ultimate flexibility, and these are really easy upgrades, right? You can get these at any store, but just something that we can all do. So onto our energy efficient product rebates. And this is the one that most of us are probably familiar, right? These are our Energy Star certified appliances. So what appliances? We have clothes washers and refrigerators, selected dryers. We also have small appliances. So this is a relatively new addition, but we have air purifiers, dehumidifiers, and room air conditioners. So even if you don't have central air conditioning, you can still get rebates for putting in efficient window units. My parents still use window units in their home because it's just a unique thing with older homes and having central air conditioning. And if you want to learn more about this, you can certainly look on our website for what pieces of appliances do qualify. We also have appliance recycling. So this is recycling for old inefficient refrigerators and freezers, and it's a free pickup and $50 rebate. During that appointment, you can also add things like room air conditioners and dehumidifiers for an additional $25 each. And we recycle about 95% of each of these appliances. So we're making sure that these units are getting recycled and that they're not just going to waste. And if you're getting rid of something anyway, there's really no reason not to go for this program. I know my parents, when they got rid of their old refrigerator in New York, they had to pay someone to pick it up and carry it out. So some more actions we can do, we can open the sun. We can open the curtains and let the sun in. My curtains are closed right now because it looks like I have a halo if I don't, but it's a really easy way to get the home a little bit warmer, especially if you have a south-facing window in the morning, right? And then we can also avoid leaving appliances on standby with smart power strips. So if you're not familiar with smart power strips, these are controlled outlets, and we have always on and sensors. So something that you'd want always on would be like your Wi-Fi router or your television. But maybe in that sensor one, you could have the Xbox, you could have the DVD player that you don't use all the time. And it just saves you money in that regard. And it's a really simple thing. These are readily available at almost any store. So just another quick upgrade you can do. So as I said, residential new construction, this is working with builders to build brand new homes or 100% gut rehab to the studs. And these are Energy Star homes, the very same Energy Star that we were just talking about, or zero energy ready homes. So these are the latest and greatest when we talk zero energy ready homes. And I'm not going to get too much into this. So it's really just talk about it there. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, send you an email, and we do have more information on our website. So finally, onto Comfort Partners. And this is our free energy saving education program geared to low income homeowners who have an income at or below 250% of the federal poverty guidelines. And these are free upgrades through BPI certified contractors with energy efficiency lighting, hot water conservation measures, replacement of inefficient refrigerators and thermostats, insulation upgrades. There's a lot available in this regard. And this can also be worked with renters. So if you rent a home and you qualify for this program, you can work with your landlord to actually get these upgrades installed. So this is a program available for all who qualify. did just want to touch on the transition I mentioned earlier. We are starting to have transition from the New Jersey Clean Energy Program to the utilities. And these are just some of the programs that are staying with the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. And then we have others that are moving over to the utilities. So all of this information is available on our website. If you just go to njcleanenergy.com, you're going to see it right there, the transition. So I did want to mention this because this is something that is coming. Another thing I like to talk about is our Clean Energy Learning Center. This is an online education tool at njcelc.com with courses and videos about a lot of things in the clean energy space, and it's designed for anyone. You know, you could be a building owner or manager, or you could just be a homeowner or interested party. There's something for everyone to learn here. I've taken a few of these classes and I find them really interesting. I always love learning about energy efficiency. So it's something that I think is just a great tool. So if you want more information, again, you can go to our website at njcleanenergy.com. There's our contact number as well as our outreach email. But I wanted to thank you all for coming today. And I know, we have really ambitious goals in New Jersey for 2050. We're trying to be 100% renewable. And this is just a very ambitious goal. And through everyone here, through all the businesses, through all the homeowners, that's how we're going to get there. So thank you for letting me talk today. And I hope we got some great questions that I can answer.
Thank you so much, Michele and Kerri Ann, for your very helpful, informative presentations. And so we do have some time to get to the many questions that folks have been typing into the chat box. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Kerri Ferraro, who has been diligently monitoring your questions, and she will direct your questions to our speakers.
Thank you, Marjorie, and thank you, Kerri Ann and Michele, for such wonderful presentations. We had a very active chat box, so I will try to get right to it. I've tried to compile some of the questions that were similar. We had questions about heat pumps. There was a question about how many heat pumps you might need, or how you figure out how many heat pumps you might need, and how long homeowners can apply for rebates from using these kind of heat pumps.
Sure. So with heat pumps, how many you might need? Obviously, your HVAC contractor is going to be the expert in that. What they're going to probably do is what they call a manual JNS. So they basically figure out the load of your home, how much energy is needed to heat and cool it properly. But it really varies. Your home setup can have a huge influence. If your home is a lot of open rooms or a lot of small rooms, it can end up being very different. But currently, with that Warm Cool Advantage program and all our programs, you can apply for June 30th would be when that last rebate could be submitted. So if you purchase something on June 30th, 2021, which I can't believe I'm saying the year 2021, it feels like the future. But if you purchase something within on that day, you can still submit for rebates. So
thank you so much. So you talked a lot about some of the wonderful programs. There were questions about whether there were programs for renters rather than homeowners, since renters make up about a third of the population. And if you have ideas for how renters can use these renovation solutions with especially smaller landlords without fearing that their rent will increase.
Yeah. So with renters, I think appliances is one of the bigger ones. You can purchase, your landlord may need to replace a refrigerator. You can try to point them in the way of an Energy Star. There's also the additional, I didn't talk about it specifically, but there's discounted lighting at retailers through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. So if you don't have LED light bulbs already, and maybe, you look in the hallways of your building and you're in an apartment, I'm in an apartment, and they're not using LEDs, that might be something to suggest to the landlord, because it's a pretty cheap upgrade here. We're not talking a new air conditioning system, furnace, boiler for a 20, 30 unit apartment building. We're talking something they can do pretty easily, and they're going to save a lot of money on it. And in a lot of cases in New Jersey, we have programs where they could get rebates for it. Or, I know in New York, there's programs where you can get rebates. So there's rebates for them to do that work if they want. And that's something you do at the building wide level. So that's really where I would start.
That's great advice. Thank you. Along a similar vein, there was also questions about multifamily homes. Now, I don't know if this is something we should say, tell the person who asked the question to come to next week's talk, or if this is something that you guys would want to comment on.
Yeah, I mean, there's broad definition of multifamily. So, we have townhomes can submit through our Warm Cool Advantage program. They can also go into our, Home Performance with the Energy Star program. With Home Performance and Energy Star, we also have a multifamily high rise that goes in there, and the building owners are paid for by unit. So there are certainly rebates for multifamily programs, and I think you kind of foreshadowed it, but you'll probably get a little bit more information next week. But multifamily is not left out here. There are rebates available for doing energy efficient upgrades.
Great. Thank you so much. So we had some questions about air sealing your home. I know someone answered, there was a question about what you meant by air sealing, and someone gave a definition, but maybe you want to share how you define air sealing or what you mean by air sealing. And then I'll ask you a follow-up question after that.
Sure. So the simplest way I would define air sealing is, especially in the attic, is you're sealing up all of these holes where energy could be escaping from. That's really the simplest, easiest way to do it. Because you think of your home, especially those older homes, they're probably not exactly the tightest thing. So with air sealing, they're using a gun in a lot of cases. Just, it's a sealing up these little holes that you would have upstairs in your attic.
And would you also recommend this kind of air sealing and insulation of the basement ceiling as well?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely something to target. The attic, just due to physics, is where we lose most of our energy. But the basement, it does not hurt to do that. And when they're doing it, they're making sure that it's sealed properly, because this is surprising, but you can actually make your home too tight. You can seal it too tight. It's not going to be common with older homes. Like, my parents' 1880s Victorian is probably never going to be too tight of a home. But yeah, it's definitely something you can do.
And you just answered my next question, actually. There was a question about sealing it too tight.
Possible, yep.
And about mold issues. Can you comment on that? The question was about whether sealing it too tight could cause mold issues. And is this really a problem, or is it kind of overhyped by unethical mold removal contractors?
Sealing it too tight isn't super common, like I said, but with mold, it's an issue we see in New Jersey, especially if you think you live down on the shore, all this humidity, right? There's going to just be a lot of mold issues if the home isn't sealed properly. So it's something our home performance contractors actually deal with a lot. They'll, remediate mold issues. They actually have a budget for fixing health and safety issues when it comes to home performance jobs. But, the closer you are to water and the more humidity you have, the more likely you are going to have mold issues, right? It's going to be less common if you're in a more dry part of New Jersey than if you're like 20 feet from the shore. So.
Thank you. So there was a question about HVAC cleaning and disinfecting, and whether that's something that should be done if it actually makes it more energy efficient.
Yeah, so you definitely, when I think of that, I'm thinking about like duct cleaning, super important. A lot of HVAC systems, ideally you have a contract with someone when you install it that they come and they do maintenance every year. They're turning things on, making sure, but that duct cleaning is super important. If that's not done right, you're gonna have less efficiency, and also you'll be blowing pollutants and dirt into your home that you don't want to do. So you definitely want to make sure that, your systems are all up to date, they're being serviced, they're being checked on. You don't want to just set it and forget it. So.
Thank you. We had a question about energy efficient blinds and shades, and whether this is something that you would recommend as well.
Sure. I'm not too familiar with them, but I know they do make a big difference in heat gain just on a personal level. When it's a really hot day in my apartment, I actually have them, and they make a huge difference, as well as I would say my apartment has no ceiling around our windows at all. And our windows, it feels like my windows open a lot of times. So they make a huge difference on an anecdotal level. I don't have the actual data behind it, but I know they definitely do make a huge difference. And, the blinds that keep the light out, they do stop my dog from waking me up at 5:30 in the morning. So I appreciate them as well. But,
Great, thank you. I don't know if you have the exact numbers here, but at the beginning you presented some figures. And so there was a question about whether the energy increase at home that we've been using, more energy using at home, is offset by the loss in office building and commuting. Do you have a sense of how that's worked together?
That's a great question. I don't have the exact data. Kerri Ann, do you know more about that one?
Actually, you kind of answered it, Michele. There isn't, there's so many variables. And one thing we know about the data regarding commuting and the impact that the pandemic has had on the environment, it's still a little unclear. Reports are in process, but you know, about commuting, it has so many, as I said, variables. How far you would need to commute, how efficient your car is, things like that. So I would hope that in the next several months, we'll have some more reliable data and reports to more accurately answer that question. So.
And the commuting too, it's such a variable thing, right? Because if you're commuting every single day into the city via mass transit, or if you're driving 45 minutes, that's a huge number difference, right? That mass commuting, you're going to use less carbon, you're going to be putting less into the atmosphere, and it's different for everyone. I think we can all say definitively that we definitely feel happier not driving or sitting on a crowded train for 40 minutes in the morning when it's 85 degrees or 25 degrees. So
yeah, definitely helps our mental energy, right?
yes.
So we received a lot of questions about different strategies. So I'm going to try to ask you a few of them if we can. And then maybe we could talk about where people can get more information. So there was a question about on-demand water heaters and whether those were good for reducing energy use.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to water heating, we have three options. Traditionally in home, we have a tank water heater, which is the traditional system that most people think of. Then we have a tankless, which is probably what you would be if you upgraded, right? That's the little bit of the upgraded version of that. And those are going to be 15-20% more efficient. And I'm just quoting ballpark numbers than a tank number. And then finally our, heat pump water heater, when I talked about electric, that's the most efficient, right? Where we had, let's say a tank system's a 0.5 UEF. We have a tankless system, we might be at 2.5 UEF. So they're super more efficient. But if we just think about it this way, right? If you have a water heater that's always producing heated water instead of responding to when it's needed, it's going to cost more money, right? And it's going to be less efficient. So, the tankless systems and the electric heat pump water heaters, they're definitely the future. So I think we're going to see those more and more in homes. And, the electric heat pump water heaters, those just keep getting more and more popular, especially with the explosion in electricity and a lot of people purchasing those. Like I said, they want to go 100% electric, right? They want to have that solar home that produces everything through solar. They want to talk about the battery wall. That's kind of the latest and greatest when it comes to green energy technology for a lot of people.
Great. Thank you so much. So you talked about rebates. There was a question about whether the rebates are federal, state, or both.
Sure. So right now, all the rebates I talked about were state rebates. They were through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. There are additional utility rebates in a lot of cases, even now. If you're, for example, a Elizabethtown gas customer and you get an efficient gas boiler, gas furnace, you can probably get a rebate through both the Clean Energy Program and Elizabethtown gas. So there's those. And there also are tax credits available on the federal level. That's the type of thing where you're only eligible for a certain amount. So you want to make sure before I say that you can qualify, that you can qualify and you haven't claimed them before, but there are, federal tax credits available as well. So.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And just one more thing on that, there's manufacturer's credits on a lot of things too. So if you buy these really efficient, I know I've seen it on the heat pump water heaters, right? They have the additional manufacturer's rebate credit. So.
Thank you. So you had mentioned the program's transition. And so there was a question about, will the programs be the same, but just handled through the utility, or will there be some slight differences there?
Sure. So at this point, honestly, it's impossible to tell you the exact thing because we haven't seen the exact programs filed. There were filings and they listed a lot of the programs we love and see today, but there's nothing official that we can really tell you. Just check our transition page as we see updates through the utilities. We're going to keep posting that, and it's going to be, up to date the minute it gets there. So you'll be able to see it there.
Great, thank you. So as I mentioned, there's a bunch of questions about, I think a lot of stuff that might be on your website. Is that the best place for people to find this information? And also there were questions about kind of getting the township more involved. So can you speak to kind of those two? They're slightly different, but similar questions.
Sure. So when we're talking about the best place to look for information, definitely our website. For example, if Warm Cool Advantage program, there is a listing of what pieces of equipment qualify and what the efficiency is, right? So if you're looking at 2 different boilers and you want to know if one will qualify for rebate, best place to start. As far as getting your township involved, working with different environmental organizations is always great. We have a great working relationship with Sustainable Jersey. I know they do a lot of work with, making towns get more energy efficient. They have actions, right? Practical things that, we're trying to do in towns. So, your local organizations are always great, and organizations like Sustainable Jersey. I think that's really the way you can get started and really making your town more, energy efficient. I know Sustainable Jersey, they have different levels of members based on the actions you do. So it's almost like a competitive thing, right? You feel like your town, oh, we're a gold, you're a silver. So it helps you compete. We're competitive. So, Kerri Ann, did you have anything to add to that? Or?
That's exactly.
Oh, okay. Oh, you muted yourself.
There are so many great questions here, and please feel free to share our contact information if there's anything additional that anybody really wants detailed answers on that we didn't get to today.
So this is Marjorie. I want to thank you on behalf of us here at the New Jersey Climate Change Resource Center once again for your fantastic presentations and informative information. Is there a way you can put in the chat box how, or to tell folks how they should reach out to you if their questions weren't answered? Specifically, I don't see an email here, but if there's a clear way we can let folks know, that would be helpful. There we go. Thank you. We should have put that up earlier. Thank you again. We hope everybody's going to join us for our next Climate Academy, which will be Friday, March 26th, also at noon, the last in our 3-part energy series. And this event, we'll hear from John Souza and Evelise Perez, who will focus on reducing the climate footprint of New Jersey commercial and industrial facilities. And again, this recording will be available on our website. So thank you all. And this concludes today's event.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.